Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's class. In today's class, we will continue to look into the object-oriented design, which we looked briefly in the previous class. Object-oriented design. So, as we know, the core of the object-oriented design is like object-oriented program is data encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. And what is it? Data encapsulation, encapsulating the data, hiding the data. That is the main feature of the object-oriented programming, where we hide the data. And in the last class, I gave an example like you have a like a object called car. In car, you have a accelerator. When you click on the accelerator, the vehicle will its speed will increase. But inside the implementation, the data, what is the data? The data is the actual amount of the petrol or the diesel that is getting injected into the engine. That how much amount is getting injected into the engine, it is unknown. So as a user of the system, as a user of the object, you have been given with a one handler. Okay, so I don't want to use the word interface. The object has been given with the one handler, so we can handler or a method. That method is called as a accelerator. When you press on the accelerator, certain thing is happening in the behind. Okay, some data is getting changed inside, and the vehicle speed is increasing. That the amount of the petrol or the diesel getting injected into the engine, that represents the data. That data is hidden from the user. That is called as a data encapsulation. So normally all the best object oriented design, we keep the data hidden. Means the data would be like private to the particular object. Nobody will be able to see directly access the data attributes, but we can have a interfaces, right? We can have methods. Using those methods, we can access the data. So that is a encapsulation. And how we can access those data or the properties which are very private to the object. Those private properties are only accessible inside the particular object. We can create some kind of a getters and the setters methods, using which we can access. Getters are the functions, public functions, which will be used to retrieve the value of those properties. And setters are the by a mechanism which public methods, by the mechanism which you can alter or you can set the property values. So normally all the getters and the setters would be in this format, be it a Java language or any other language. Normally the getters and setters are set in such a way that the name of the getter would be starting with a get and the name of the attribute or the name of the property. So here it is a property is the first name, get first name. And in PHP, we need not specify what is the return type. With PHP, the function definition, we would be saying it as a public function, name of the function, and no parameters inside the curly braces. I will return. You remember, like whenever we are accessing the particular property inside the class, we are using $this. Okay, $this is the reference to the current object, using which I can get the value. So $this arrow first name, it will get the whatever the value that is set to this property, and that value will be returned to whoever is calling the get first name getter method. Another example is a set method. Okay, setter. Normally, how the setters are given the name, we use the keyword set, and after that the name of the property. So this is a convention. This is not a mandatory rule. It's a good convention where looking at those function name itself, you can know this is meant for getting, this is meant for the setting. And if you want to access without the knowledge of the what kind of a setter or a getter, you can directly type get and the field property name. So if the getter is set with the same, then we can programming wise it is very easy, and it is consistent across the all the developers. So it would be very it can form as a very good standard. Public, so getters and setters must be public functions, so that these functions are accessible outside the class. Wherever we create a object, from that object we would be able to call the getters and setters. That's why these are set as a public function. Set birth date. So set, so this is a setter function, and setting the birth date and passing the birth date object. And here the implementation could be anything. We are just checking whether it's a valid birth date or object, and there are based on certain condition. If it is not the according to the requirement, we will set it as a get earliest allowed date. That object we will set. If everything is fine, then dollar this birth date. So what is dollar this? This is the reference to the current object, arrow birth date, and we will set whatever the user has passed. Okay, that value we are going to pass. So you can see here, this is what this will create a data object, data underscore create, and we are going to pass the birth date. After validation, everything is good, then it will be set with that particular value. This is the example of the UML. So we have all these properties. These are the properties. First name to number, city, artist count. We know that it is a static. Okay, it is a static property, and minus or the dash sign indicates all the private. Then we have a constructor artist having 5 parameters, and we have one public method output as table. So it is going to display this information as a HTML table on the browser. And all these are getters, all are public methods. Get first name, corresponding to each property we will have a method. And along with that we have additional get earliest allowed date method, which will get some kind of earliest date, and get artist count. And I told you one thing about, whenever you have a member as a static, that respective function should be also be a static. Only a static function can access the static member. If you remember the Java programming, this is the same kind of a rule. From a static method, we can access the static members. So get artist count will get the count of this artist. Then we have the set values. So you can see set values, all public, to set all the these 5 properties, and we have 5 setters. Data encapsulation, simple example. We have a HTML here. We have body, h2 is there, and we start of the PHP program, including the this class definition, or whatever the class code, source code for this, that will be stored in a artist.class.php. In yesterday's class, we saw how to define the class in PHP. We use the keyword class name followed by the actual name of the class. Inside the bracket, we specify all the properties and the methods and their accessibility, and that is how we create the class. Then $Picasso, this is the artist class, new artist, and we pass all the 5 information. It will create a object of artist, and it will give a reference in the $Picasso. Then echo $Picasso get last name. So in this artist class, last name is a private property, and we are accessing it through the getter. So get last name. Similarly, we have $Picasso get birth date. Again, this is a getter method. One more is a get death date. And then we are creating one more object of type artist, new artist, and giving other information, 5 information. And dollar will have that new object, and again it is the same thing. We are calling the get last name. So here the dollar Dali get last name will get the Dali. In this particular object, dollar Picasso get last name, it will get the last name Picasso. And next is we are calling the output method, which we already saw in one sample program I showed in the last class. Dollar Picasso output as a table. This is a public method which will display the information as a table. So that method we are calling. Finally, then we have number of instantiated artists. So we know we have a this particular member artist count is a static member, and it belongs to the class, not to the object. With every object being created, we saw like in the constructor we are incrementing its value. How many objects did we create here? We created one object here of type artist, another object of type artist. So its value will get incremented to 2. How to access that particular value? Because it is a private property, we are going to access that value through this, right? This static method, that is get artist count. When we have the particular method is a static, we need not access that using the object, using the class name itself. So you can see here artist is the class name, colon colon I am accessing the static method get artist count. So it will get the count as a 2. So what you will see is a number of instantiated artist concatenated to 2. That is what will be displayed on the browser. Inheritance. So far we saw the encapsulation. Next property is the inheritance. This is the one of the most important aspect of the object oriented programming. Inheritance is what similar to the English meaning of the inheritance. Inheritance what you inherit certain properties from your parents. Okay. Maybe it is a biological property or it's a physical properties like house, land, wealth, etc. Or it is your biological properties. Maybe your eyes are like your mother, or your face is like your father. Those are the properties you inherited from your parents. Similarly, the same thing can be implemented in object oriented program, where we can create a child class or the subclasses we call, and those subclasses will be derived from the parent class. When we derived those classes from the parent class, they will have the properties of the parent class. And what kind of properties of the parent class? Whatever the parent has properties which are specified as public or protected, those properties will be inherited in the child class of the subclasses. That is called as a inheritance. So PHP unlike C++, allows multiple inheritance. Similar to Java, PHP only in case of a PHP, you can only inherit from one class. So I can inherit only from one class. I cannot inherit from multiple classes. And the parent class is called as a super class or the base class, and the child class, which is inheriting from the parent, it is called as a subclass or the derived class. And how do we create the subclasses in case of a PHP? This is the syntax for that. Class painting extends art. So we are creating a class called as a painting, which extends means it's going to inherit the art. Whatever the properties and methods that are marked as public and protected, all those properties will be inherited by the painting. What is the meaning of that? When we create a object of painting, that on that object I can directly call whichever is the public property in art, whichever is the public method in the art, I can directly access them. Similarly for the protected elements, this is the UML, this is the parent class, and this is the subclass or the child class or the derived class. So we use the arrow like this, which indicates that this painting is a subclass of a art. In this particular case, painting we will inherit toString method, get name, set name, all those, these are public, those will be inherited. So this painting will have a private property as medium, and along with that its own methods, get medium and set medium. Along with that, it from the parent it will have underscore toString, get name, set name, all those properties, all those methods will be available here. Whether these properties, name, artist, and calendar created year, are available for the child? No. The reason being, these are declared as a private. When we have a private members, they just belong to that particular class. These things will not be inherited. Whichever is the public or protected, only those properties will be inherited by the child or the subclasses. Example, $P new painting. If I say dollar echo $P arrow get name, this particular method is from the parent. So it is from the parent, and it will get executed, but it will executed from the parent's implementation. And then echo $P arrow get medium. This particular function will get executed from its own method listing. Protected access modifier. Again, same example. These two properties are private. These two methods are public methods, and we have two more methods: get original, set original as a protected method. Painting is a derived class from the art class. When I derive from this class, this painting, this particular subclass is going to inherit all the public and protected. That means what? Painting can access get name method, set name method, get original, set original. Like those methods, painting class can inherit. But outside the these two classes, means if you have a object of let us say painting or object of the artist, we cannot access get original and set original. Only we can access the public methods. These protected methods can be only accessible inside the painting class. For example, here I have a class painting extends art, so it is going to extend this one, and I have one function here, private function foo, and this is the implementation, beginning of the curly brace, closing of the curly brace. Inside this, what I am doing is $W parent colon colon get name, so it's going to get this name, and $X is equal to parent colon colon get original. It is a protected. Yes, still it is fine, we can access inside the subclass. Now we are saying $Y is equal to parent colon colon init, and we know that init is a private method. You cannot access inside the subclass. Inside the subclass or the child class, you can access a public whatever is in the public method or protected method, not the private method. Now this is inside the subclass. Now let us say we have some other code apart from this child class and the parent class, where you are creating objects of these two types, art and the painting. So this is some other code, some other class, different, totally different class. $P is equal to new painting. So this will create a new painting object, and it will get assigned to the $P variable. And new art, it will create a new art, and it will assign to the $A variable. Now if you try to do this one, $W is equal to $P get original. Okay, on parent, sorry, on child, $P is painting, that is child. On child, you are trying to call the a protected method, so it will give a error. It is not possible to access that. And another is, I have parent here itself, new art, $A has a parent, $A get original. I'm trying to get on this object, artist object, I am trying to get the get original method, which is protected. This is also not allowed. Protected methods and properties are not accessible outside the class or the subclass, period. And where it can be accessed, the protected and the protected property and the protected method, only inside the the child class, subclass. Only I can access here. Other than that, we cannot access. And private method, straightforward. Nobody can access the private methods apart from the class itself. If something is private, that is only accessible inside the class. Outside the class, whether it is a subclass or whatever the class, it is not allowed. Private members are meant only for the respective class. Okay, please try to understand the distinction between the private, public, and the protected. And this is one example. We have a art private member artist. This object I have name, year created, all are private. And painting and sculpture extends art, both extends arts. So it will have the properties of the art inherited, whichever is public and protected. As of now, everything is private. And art print is inheriting the printing. Abstract class that contains functionality required by all types of the art. Okay, so I have abstract class art and private private property, dollar name, private property, dollar artist, private property, dollar year created, and some constructor, letter setters, all those parts of that particular class. Then class painting extends art. I have a one more property here as a dollar medium, and also I have a public function sorry, underscore underscore to string function. Whenever I say echo object of this type, this method is called. And there is also this implementation in the parent. So in the parent class, we have the implementation for underscore underscore to string method. What I'm going to do is return. I'm going to call that method which is in the parent colon colon underscore underscore to string, to which I will concatenate the information related to this particular subclass, that is medium, and I will specify what kind of a medium, that is dollar this, and get medium, which will get this value, and that value is appended and it is returned to wherever we have echo and a dollar variable which is having a object of type painting. Similarly, sculpture. So you can see sculpture, it has a private dollar weight in public function underscore underscore to string colon. I am returning the parent to string concatenated with the weight information that is available in this particular sculpture. Okay, we are concatenating weight colon actual weight dot kg. This is another extended example. I have dollar Picasso, a new artist is being created with all the 5 information. Then dollar Guernica, new painting. So this painting is what? It is a subclass of this artist, and I have all this information. Dollar woman, new sculpture, all the information, which is also a subclass of a dollar artist. Now H2 paintings, then paragraph I have use the dollar to string methods. So I told you, whenever we call the echo and the name of the object, so name of the object, what this will do is intrinsically it will call underscore underscore to string method that is available. For example painting, this is what it is going to, it will concatenate with whatever is the parent underscore underscore to string implementation, and to that it will concatenate medium and the actual medium. And for sculpture, it will concatenate parent to string with the weight information. So that is what is going to be executed here. Here dollar underscore underscore to string of Guernica will get of painting class will get executed. Here underscore underscore to string method of the sculpture class will get executed. Polymorphism is important aspect of any object oriented programming language. That is the third important aspect. First is the encapsulation, second is inheritance, third one is polymorphism. In case of a polymorphism, meaning of a polymorphism is taking different forms. Okay, when I give a suppose I have a animal object, inside the animal object I have like say a human, and inside the animal object I have say reptile. I have a digestion method. Okay, the digestion method is exactly the which every animal object will have a digestion method, but the way the digestion is done is different in human than the reptiles. If I call the digestion method, the implementation will change according to whether it is a human object or the whether it is a reptile object. So that is called as a polymorphism. Same method but different implementation. How the differentiation in the implementation based on the what kind of a object I'm going to give. So that is how. For another simple example is area. Okay, area of a square, area of a square object, area of a circle object. Area is the common property of any kind of a shape. But if I give the shape, if I call the shape, if I call the area method on the circle object, implementation is different. If I call the area method on rectangular object, the implementation is different. Even though area is exactly the same, depending upon whether the object is square or a circle or a rectangle, the area implementation would be different. That is a polymorphism. Polymorphism is the notion that an object can in fact be multiple things at the same time. Consider the instance of the painting object. So earlier we created Guernica new painting. The variable Guernica is both a painting object as well as a art object. Why it is both? Because it is inheriting the art. So it is a painting object as well as a art object due to its inheritance. The advantage of polymorphism is that okay. The advantage of polymorphism is that we can manage a list of art object and call the same overridden methods on each. When I said overridden methods, just the example I gave, area is the method, but it will get overridden based on what kind of object I am passing. Suppose if I am say a circle, the way you calculate the area is like pi r square. If I give you the rectangle, the area is L into B. Implementation is different, but the method is the same. That is called as a overriding methods. This is the example of a polymorphism. We have a new artist, Dollar Picasso, and we have new painting and new sculpture that is stored in Guernica and Chicago variables. And we have creating a array. This is array, empty array that is stored in dollar works. At zeroth location I have Guernica, and at first location I have dollar Chicago. If you see here, this is the representation. Like I have two different you feel it is two different. This is a painting object, this is sculpture object, but this painting is object is also a art object. Sculpture, this is also an art object. That is why we are having these two elements in this array, and for each we are going to iterate through this, and we say echo dollar art. So when we call echo dollar art, what method will get called? Dollar dollar to string. But when I call dollar art for the first time at the element 0, I have Guernica. So Guernica is a painting. The underscore underscore to string method that is available in painting will get executed. When we iterate through the next element, we get the dollar Chicago, that is the sculpture element. So when I call echo on that dollar art, it will execute the dollar score under to string which is present in the sculpture. So you can see even though it is the method is the object is the same, we have a overridden methods. For the first time, a different, that is different implementation of the underscore underscore to string got implemented from the second time. So here we add works to artist. Any type of artist class will work. So we are just add work, and first we are adding Guernica and adding Chicago, and for each we are iterating through the get works and Based on that, which work we are putting, that is overloaded method, that will get executed here. Interfaces are similar to the PHP interfaces are very similar to the Java interfaces. In case of interfaces, in case of PHP, we cannot inherit from multiple classes, but there is a way to inherit multiple things. So we can inherit as a class, as a interface, or multiple interfaces. And interfaces is a way of defining a formal list of methods that class must implement without specifying their implementation. So in case of an interface, we will have just the class declaration will be there, implementation will not be there. Implementation that says get size, what this method, what is the implementation, we will not provide. Okay, if you are making it as a interface, this interface viewable must have these two methods, that is get size and get png. Whoever is implementing this particular interface, they must provide the implementation for the get size. We'll see the example. In PHP, class can be set to implement an interface using the implement keywords. Okay, a class painting extends art implements viewable. You can see painting extends art implements viewable, means painting is going to extend from the art, and also it will implement viewable. When we say it implements viewable, this painting class must provide the implementation for the get size and the get png. This is the example. Interface viewable, class painting extends art implements viewable. You can see public function get png, we see the implementation, some kind of a implementation, and this is the get size implementation. Interface will just tell you what are the different methods to be implemented, whoever is implementing that particular interface. This is the example where we have painting and movie which extend art and implements viewable, and movie and song, they extend art and implements playable. If you see the movie, it extends art and implements viewable comma playable. So it will provide implementation for get size, get png, get length, and get media. That is the object oriented design. And if you see the syllabus, we have a very small topic still. Here you can see error handling and validation. What are errors and exception? PHP error reporting, PHP error and exception handling. So until this object oriented design, this is chapter 9 and 10. For error handling, all this rest of the topics, it is from chapter 12. Okay, we will see that chapter 12. Chapter 12 is not completely included. We have only three parts. That is what are error and exceptions, PHP error reporting, PHP error and exception handling. These three topics from this particular chapter. What are errors and exceptions? First, types of errors. One is the expected error, second one is the warning, and third one is the fatal error. Expected error, things that you expect go wrong. Suppose you have a bad user input, or there is some kind of a database connection related issue, or if you are trying to handle a file related issue, like a file may not exist or file is corrupt. So those are the different kinds of errors that you can expect where the application will fail. And second set is the warnings. Those are really not errors, but it is better to have that particular implementation in some different way. Suppose using some kind of a deprecated function. So for a few versions, it will give us a warning that you are using a deprecated function. Use latest functions that are available. So over a period, that warning will get converted into a error. But warnings will not stop the programming. Sorry, warnings will not stop the execution. Still, you will continue with the execution but warnings are better to handle those warnings so that we will not have a future failures. Warnings, problems that generate a PHP warning message but will not halt the execution of the page. Next one is the fatal errors. As the name suggests, these errors will stop the execution. These are very serious kinds of errors that will where the execution must be stopped. Fatal errors are serious in that execution of the page will terminate unless handled in some way. Suppose if you have any mechanism to handle those errors, then you can continue with the execution. So checking the user inputs, suppose I have a query string like this, ID is equal to 0, ampersand, name one is equal to actually not set. Okay, there is no value for the name one. These are the things which can happen when you don't have a validation on the client side. Means you are allowing user to submit the values as is. Suppose if you make a value as a certain input as mandatory, then you won't get it like this. Name 2 Smith and name 3 is equal to %20, which is a URL encoding for the space. Then you can use two methods, is set and empty. When you are using these methods, you have to be very careful. You should know how what values it will return. For example, is set dollar underscore get, this is a super global, and ID I can get this value. So this value 0 will be sent. Is set 0 returns a true. Is set dollar get name one, even though nothing is there, you can observe it is returning true. So is set means normal is set is like whether this variable is available or not. That is the simplest meaning. Is set name 2, answer is true. Is set name 3, okay, irrespective of what value it is having, answer is true. Is set name 4, the name 4 is not present, that is when you will get the false. You have to be very careful how you are going to use the is set. If you are expecting the second is name 1 will return false, no, is set will return true only if that particular variable is not there. Name 4 key is not available here, then it will return false. And empty, even using empty you have to be careful. Empty dollar get ID, even though 0 is present there, it is returning true because it is taking 0 as a valid or a legitimate entry. Then name 1 it will return true. You can see name 2 returns false. Empty, okay, it returns false. Then empty, this is also returning false. Name 1, because there is no value, it is true. Name 2 we have a value false. Then name 3 it is returning false. Name 4 you see it is returning true. So you have to be very careful how you want to use according to your requirement. Checking the user input, checking for a particular number. Dollar ID is equal to dollar underscore get and ID. If dollar empty, okay, so empty and what is the ID? Empty is 0, right? Empty 0 will return true, right? Empty, this is 0 will return true, and you are making it as false, okay. You don't want to consider 0 as an like a ID. So that is how you are using it. Is according to the your application requirement, whether if you want to consider 0 as a valid number or not, it is according to your requirement of the project. And is numeric means you are checking whether it's a numeric. If this both are true, then you will do the processing. Whatever the processing you want to do, you will do it. Exception versus errors. Error is some type of a problem that generates a non-fatal warning message, or that generates an error message that terminates the program's execution. So error is that either it generates a non-fatal warning or it generates a error message and it will stop the programming execution. And exception refers to the objects that are of type exception and which are in conjunction with the object oriented try catch language construct for dealing with the runtime errors. So exceptions are nothing but the objects. Those objects are create those objects exception objects are created so that during the runtime, if we encounter those exceptions, then we can easily handle using the try and catch. That is a exception handling mechanism. For example, during your calculation, suppose let us say it happens like divide by zero happens, and that is a division by zero error. So if there are no exception, this is a pure runtime error, division by zero, programs will stop. But in case of a try and catch, I can create a exception, arithmetic exception or divide by zero exception. And once that division occurs, that particular exception will get generated, and the catch block will catch the division by zero. And our code will come to know that division by zero happened, and you can handle that division by zero in a very appropriate manner and continue with the execution. PHP error reporting. For error reporting, PHP has a flexible, customizable system for reporting warnings and errors that can be set programmatically at runtime or declaratively at the design time within the either configuration file, php.ini file, or we can set it dynamically. There are three main type of reporting flags. First one is error underscore reporting. Second is display underscore errors, and log underscore errors. Those are the three types we have. The first one, the error underscore reporting settings, it specifies which type of errors are to be reported. It can be programmatically set or it can be set in the configuration file. Programmatically, we can set it like that: error underscore reporting. Inside the bracket, we set this constant e underscore all. So it is going to report all kind, whether it is warning, error, everything gets reported. And if you want to set it in a configuration file, that is php.ini file, error underscore reporting is equal to this constant e underscore all. That should be set. So these are the constant names and their values in the description. E underscore all, the value is 8191. Report all errors and warnings. If you set that property as e underscore all, it's going to report all the errors and warnings. If you set it as e underscore error, then value would be 1. It will report all the fatal runtime errors. Whatever is the fatal runtime errors, it is going to report. If you set it as e underscore warning, whose value is numeric value is 2, report all non-fatal runtime errors. That is, it is going to report all the warnings. And if you set the value as 0, then there is a no reporting. Display underscore error setting, to show or not to show particular errors. The display underscore error setting specify whether error message should or should not be displayed in the browser. So if you set this property, it will decide whether we are going to display the error message on the our browser or not. And again, similar to the earlier error underscore reporting, it can be set in two ways: programmatically, or you can set it in the configuration file. If you are doing it as programmatically, we are going to use ini underscore set method. The first parameter is the display underscore errors. The second value is 0 or 1. So this will share, this will 0 is for off, means you don't want to display. 1 is on, you want to display the errors on the browser. And inside the PHP file, display underscore errors is equal to off or is equal to on. And the third setting is log underscore error setting, specifies whether the error message should or should not be sent to the server error log. It can programmatically via, similar to the previous settings, we can set it as programmatically or we can set it as a configuration file. Programmatically, we are going to use the ini underscore set method, where first parameter is the log underscore error. The second parameter on or off, that is 1 or 0. Once being specifying that the error should be reported into the log files. Whatever is the default setting of the log files, those errors will be written into those log files. and in PHP file, log underscore errors is equal to on, okay, or off. The way you want it, you can specify. The location to store the logs in can be set programmatically. Okay, the location of the log files can be set programmatically. Using programmatically, we use the method ini underscore set. First parameter is error underscore log location. Second one is the location inside the singles code from root / restricted / my errors, my hyphen errors dot log. That is the name of the log file. And using the configuration file inside the php.ini file, you can set it as error underscore log is equal to / restricted / the name of the log file. You can also programmatically send messages to the error log at any time via the error underscore log function. So if there is a need to send programmatically the messages to the error log, that we can do that. For example, we have some kind of a error that happened, which is representative of this message. Dollar message is equal to some horrible error has occurred. And once you have that message, you call the error underscore log, that is error underscore log function, and you send it as a first parameter comma 0. So what it will do is it will directly write it into the system log. Whatever is the system log, it is defined like this. It is going to write this message into that system log. Suppose if you want to email that message, error underscore log dollar message comma 1, and you will provide the two email ID, that is support@abc.com. Sorry, this is to and this is from some page.php. This is a support group that you are going to send. They will take a look into what is the problem. Then third option is you can send that message to some other file. So this will send it to the default log file. This will send it to some other log file. Error underscore log dollar message comma 3 comma, you will specify the log the other than the default log file. Suppose here we have /folder / some file.log. PHP error and exception handling. Suppose if you remember, in one of the code piece we had the database connection. Okay, so how to make the database connection? We were calling the MySQL I underscore connect method. We were passing host, user, password, and the database instance. So this will get a connection to the object, a connection to the database, and that connection object is given to this variable dollar connection. And if there are any error, okay, that error can be captured using MySQL I underscore connect underscore error. So if there are any error, then we will have some kind of a error here. We are going to check if dollar error not equal to null, means if the connection object was successful, if we made a successful connection and we got the connection object, then we will have a null value here. But if there is any error, then it will have some content not equal to null true, then we have to handle the error. Maybe if the database connection is failed, maybe you will connect to some alternate connections, or you will do some alternative actions. So whatever is decided by the requirement of the program, you are going to handle the error like in that particular fashion. Object-oriented exception handling. When runtime errors occur, PHP throws an exception. Okay, whenever there is a runtime error happens, PHP will throw the exception. It depends on what kind of a error happens. The exceptions will be related to that particular error. This exception can be caught and handled either by the function, class, or the page that generated the exception, or by the code that called the particular function or class. So wherever okay, so wherever the exception gets generated, we can catch there, or you can, if that is not caught there, you can caught at the catch at the higher level. So it can keep on progressive, like if it is inside a function, exception happens, you can handle there. If it is not handled in the function, whoever is calling that function, maybe some other class or some other page, must handle that exception. It will, one second. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so the exception has to be handled in that fashion. If exception is not caught, then eventually the PHP environment will handle it by terminating the execution with an uncaught exception message. This is the example. We have a function throw exception message, and the code by default null values throw new exception with the given message and the code. This is the a function exception throwing function. Inside the PHP, I have a try block. Inside the try block, I'm trying to make a connection. And if, let us say, due to some reason, inside this try block, I get some kind of a error, exception will be thrown, and I have a catch block, exception will be caught here. And this is the catch block. Inside the catch block, I'm going to handle the exception. What I'm going to do here, echo caught exception concatenated with $e. So this is the exception object. I'm calling the get message. So I'm going to get what kind of a message it has, and on line, which line we have the error, and stack trace. So stack trace is present in this, we can call using $e, that is the exception object, arrow get trace. So it will give me the complete trace where the exception was thrown, and what are the complete trace, that trace we will get. So that looking at it, we will know where it started and what could be the probable cause for that particular exception. And we have the finally block, and you, as already know, the finally block similar to the Java, irrespective of there is a error or not, it will get executed. Suppose if there is no error, try block gets executed, then it comes to the finally block will get executed. Let us say there is some exception, from that exception point the control will get transferred to the catch block will get executed, then finally block will get executed. Object, then exception, the finally block is optional. Any code within it will always be executed after the code in the try or in the catch blocks, even if that code contains a return statement. You have to remember that irrespective of what the situation, finally block will get executed, and it is optional. You need not have it, but if you include the finally block, no matter what, it will get executed. And finally block is available in PHP 5.5 version and later versions. And throw your own exceptions. I have a try block. This is the catch block. Inside here, inside the catch block, you can see here I have some handling of the exception. At the end, I'm throwing my exception. So throw whatever the exception I handled, I'm throwing it back again. So whoever is calling this has to handle this thrown exception. What should a customer error or a exception handler do? It should provide the developer with a detailed information about the state of the application when exception occurred, information about the exception, and when it happened. It should hide any of those details from the regular end user, and instead provide the user with a generic message such as sorry, but there was a problem. So whenever you are handling a exception, what the handler should do, it should get the information what is the state of the error, and it should provide a user friendly information to the user. Let us say there is a problem in connecting to the database. You should not be telling there is a problem in connecting to this particular database and very technical information. You should provide some user friendly information. At this point of time, the database is not ready. Please come back after a few minutes or whatever. So some such friendly information should be given. Once the handler function is defined, it must be registered using the following code. So this is the method my exception handler. This is how you can register set underscore exception underscore handler. This is the code. You can see the function my exception handler. It takes the exception object. Inside the exception object, we are putting the detailed exception message, paragraph, exception number. Okay, you are getting the code. Then concatenated with the exception get message occurred on line. You are giving the particular line as a bold. Okay, and in the file you are telling which file the error occurred. So error underscore log, you are also logging that message. So whatever the message you are getting, you are logging into, no, this is sending the email, sending it to the support team so that they can take a look into that. If exception serious, then stop execution and tell the maintenance team. So if dollar exception get code not equal to e underscore notice, then die. So you will stop the execution of the application. Okay, that is the end of the module 4.